We'd like to give a special shout out to the following people for making this episode and the rest of Act 3 possible. Louis, Malaya, Reg, Daniel Athern, Osterkim, Vanna, Finch, Dr. Dan Venning, Sleepless Berry, Court, Rogue Canoe, John and Muna, Sadie, Zay the Great, Elliot Kane, and Trident. Thank you for your support. Maraming salamat. You're listening to Hainai by Motsi Dapul. Episode 70, Lungsod.
Hey DJ, been a while. I gotta admit, I stopped listening to your show after I told my story. Ironically, knowing that the spooky stuff was real took the fun out of hearing about it, especially with all the stories coming from Toronto. A little too close to home, you know? Plus, I didn't want to see the comments talking about what I went through like it was a fun little made-up story. But I figured I'd check back in. Especially now. I heard about what happened to you. Heard about what's happening to others. And I thought that if I didn't speak up, I survived something horrifying, whether or not people believe it happened, and I was lucky. Lucky enough to run into someone who knew what was going on, stop the bad thing from happening, as best as he could. I've heard the calls you got where other people were as lucky as I was, and I've heard the other calls. Did she tell you about Abe? When I listened to your episodes, I heard about Abe, and I wanted to try and get in touch with him, but I couldn't. I texted our mutual acquaintance and asked her if she knew something about this Abe guy. She told me what happened to him, why he doesn't call into your show anymore. Said she tried to save him, but she was too late. So, yeah. If you remember my story, you know I met someone who saved me. And when he did, I learned a thing or two about how and why I almost ended up dying from the same horrific nightmare that devoured my ex. I learned that there are things, objects, scattered all over Toronto, maybe all of Ontario. Maybe further even than that. Cursed things that feed on your terror, your fear, your strongest emotions. Feed on you when you're at your weakest, most isolated. They make you see things that aren't real or aren't supposed to be real. But they're real. And they'll kill you. And once you're in there, in that miasma, nobody can help you. You can't escape. It'll eat you alive, kill you afraid, and feed on that fear, that death. Even worse, they're feeding for a reason. They've been sent out by people who benefit from the fear, the death. People who use it for their own ends. They live in secret, or in plain sight. It's impossible to know who's who, only that they exist and that they have their own agenda. I think maybe, DJ, you might have met one of them, and was lucky enough to be saved from the man. But I don't know how often these people do the dirty work themselves, so I want to focus more on the cursed things than the people who make them. I've seen it getting worse these past few weeks. It happened to me a year ago, but I haven't seen it this bad until now. I notice things now. When things are weird, when people are alone, when people seem terrified of something I can't see. I try to pull them out of it and help them when I can. I think I'm catching them early, because I know how it feels to be in that, and how inescapable it is. But it takes some time to really latch on. It needs you to be as vulnerable as possible, as deep in it as possible, so you can't crawl out. The thing is, I have protection now. More than most. I think maybe that protection makes me more useful, more helpful. In the past couple of weeks, I've seen some weird stuff go down that I'm sometimes able to interfere with, but other times... There was this guy who was bumping into people. Eyes wide and wild. His clothes seemed suspiciously pristine, but he was sweating buckets, yelling about it being after him. That it would devour him. I stopped him, grabbed him by the shoulders, and demanded he tell me what he meant by it. But he looked up, straight up, and screamed before breaking free, running away. I ran after him, but as soon as I rounded the corner, he was gone. Like he was never there. But I saw the wet footprints of his shoes when he stepped into a puddle. Running steps that just disappeared without fading. Stopped cold. Like he jumped up into the air and never came down. Another time, I saw something in a crowd, following a girl who tried to pretend she couldn't see it. It was person-like, but much too tall, swaying like a flower in the wind. I hurried over and realized it wasn't even really walking, just moving, fast enough to keep pace no matter how fast the girl walked, just barely running. I stopped her and she almost hit me in the face, eyes wild and wide, before we turned to face the person-like thing, swaying in place and bending down, staring without eyes. I stood between them, blocking the girl from sight. She was much smaller than me, so it was easy. It stopped moving. Stopped swaying. I reached for something in my pocket, something lucky that someone gave me. I held it up in front of me, and it seemed to peel the thing away where it stood, stock still, no longer swaying in the wind. It peeled false skin away to reveal a row of mismatched teeth where there should have been eyes, and peeled those away to show many more circling rows and a lashing tongue. It peeled and peeled until this heavy weight lifted from my shoulders, and the girl grabbed my arm and thanked me as she fought off a panic attack. She asked me what it was, and I told her I didn't know, only that I'd been in her position before, and I'd been saved by someone. She asked me what she should do, and all I could think to say was, find the thing that came into her possession when that human-like thing started showing up. An old thing, an antique. She said she'd never owned anything like that, just moved into a new apartment, and I had to tell my friend to hunt the damn thing down. He made sure whatever it was that made that monster manifest was neutralized, but asked me not to get involved. It was too dangerous, he said. But I had to tell him it was impossible. Maybe months ago, maybe even a few more weeks ago, I could have told him I'd leave it be. But it's been getting worse, and it's hard for me to ignore these days. I can't stand it, DJ. I can't stand knowing this is just happening everywhere now, that people are still dying and disappearing and nobody's noticing them. So, I want to help where I can. Give advice if anyone's willing to listen. The one who saved me, the old man many of you might know from the other incidents. The homeless man who's played guardian angel to the city these past few years. He told me how to avoid getting into these situations, if at all possible. Though, obviously there's no guarantee it'll stop the bad things from happening. All I can promise is that it'll lower your risk of running into the bad things. First off, the cursed objects are mostly from the 1920s and 1930s Toronto, so try to keep away from antiques from that era, I guess? I know that's a silly ask, so it's just something to note. I swear I've got better advice. Try not to be alone. I know many people don't have a choice. I know how lonely people can be in this city. But the curses, they don't work nearly as well when you're not alone. It's not impossible, of course. Sometimes when you're deep in, even when you're in the middle of a crowded city street, it'll eat you all up anyway. But it's harder to get to you when you're not alone. When you're not lonely. It's easier to pull you out of it when there's someone there to help. And finally, try to have a lucky charm on you. Something blessed by something or someone you believe strongly in. You have to believe it, or else it won't work. That, or it's a gift from someone who loves you, who believes for you. I know this doesn't sound helpful. Too general, too vague. But if there were easy answers, people better than me at this sort of thing would have solved the problem years ago. These same people, I know for a fact, are trying to put an end to this nightmare. But I figure I'd lend a helping hand. Especially now. After all, that's what saved me. I don't know why it's getting worse, but I hope this offsets it somehow. When I asked the old man, he said that the fear is getting stronger everywhere, even among those that stand to benefit from it. There will always be people who stand to gain from the suffering of others, from the fear and the death. But that's nothing new, is it? Not in this world. Still, I'm worried about what they'll do, now that they're afraid. Good luck out there, DJ. You and your listeners.
You're listening to Hainai by Motsi Dapul. Hey everyone, it's Motsi. I haven't done one of these messages about Gaza in a while because Israel's still slaughtering civilians, and there hasn't been adequate justice against the child-killing soldiers of Israel. Despite there being a quote-unquote ceasefire, Israel has not stopped their genocide and mass killing of civilians, killing over 100 Palestinians within days of the ceasefire's announcement. The work is not done until Israel is demilitarized, the soldiers and politicians are punished for their crimes of genocide, and the violent, racist, colonizing settlers are removed from the West Bank, and the land is returned to the Palestinians who are indigenous to that land. There is no ceasefire until Israel is sanctioned in its entirety, and there is no end to the work that needs to be done in order to hold Israel accountable. All that being said, that doesn't mean there isn't progress, and that doesn't mean that Palestinians have not experienced joy since the ceasefire was announced. Many have been able to go home, to go to school, to eat proper meals again. It's important not to let Israel get away with their genocide and mass child killing, but it's just as important to ensure Palestinians are taken care of. Continue to support food and aid distribution efforts active within Palestine, and continue to follow and support Palestinians who are making things better for their community, with some examples including food blogger Hamad Ashu, journalist Bisan Auda, and local aid group Care for Gaza, who I've linked in previous episodes. It's also important to keep donating to verified Palestinian individuals and families who are trying to survive this genocide. If you're not sure how to verify, there's no harm in donating to larger organizations like the UNRWA and Doctors Without Borders, who are actively working to distribute aid and save lives in Gaza, but it also helps to get that aid directly to Palestinians. As always, may Palestine be free from the violent, genocidal, child-killing Israeli occupation. Kalayaan para sa Palestina.
Hey everyone, it's Motzi, creator and showrunner of the Hainai podcast. Hainai is a podcast produced by Motzi Dapul, Yoy Halago, and Alyssa Jimenez, and licensed under Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share-alike 4.0 International License. This episode was co-produced by Jesse Goodsell and written and directed by Motzi Dapul. The role of Danny Boyd is played by Edward McKee. Special thanks to Edward McKee for assisting in the writing process. If you'd like to chat with other listeners when this episode goes live, we do a live premiere every Sunday at 9 p.m. ET or Toronto time on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/HainaiPod. To help support the production of Hainai, you can subscribe to our Patreon, patreon.com/HainaiPod. You'll get to be part of our early access program, where we release episodes 3 days early on Thursday at 9 p.m. ET or Toronto time. You can also get bonus video, audio, art, and much more. Speaking of Patreon, we'd love to give a special shout-out to the following patrons for all their amazing support. Nikki Green, Sai B.A., Emily C., Lauren Morton, Prinks Variety, Dee Chanak, Johnny Demented, Chandra, Adge W., Tony Baloney, Nay, Boyo, Phoenix Luna, Kate Jordan, Tiana Harvey, Dracocard, Sabine, Ben, DC Squirrel, Jess Snow, Talon, Nonette Dapul, Tanisha Wesley, Mika, Matthew Upton, Anna, Sooks, Becca Terrier, Amelia Brownstein, Diana Cause, Melissa, Emma H., Faye Fungi, Pablo Neurotic, Astra Kim, Evie Smith, Megan, Jesse Goodsell, Malaya Light, and Victoria Goodwin. Thank you for all your support. If you subscribe at the ATET tier or the $10 tier and above, you get bonus episodes, bonus content, the full B-sides, and you get your name shouted out on every episode in the credits, just like our wonderful supporters here. If you can't subscribe monthly, you have the option to buy us a milk tea on Ko-fi. That's ko-fi.com/HainaiPod. Our ad-free Hainai album, which has our official music and full episodes from Act 1 and 2, is also available for both patrons and to purchase on our coffee shop. Check out our website, HainaiPod.com, for more info, and follow us on all our socials, on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook, and Blue Sky, and even our YouTube posts, at HainaiPod, for updates and more information, especially when we have special events. And as always, thank you, we love you, and hanggang sa muli.